too far from your machine, you have that message to live with. And good. Okay. So we'll start again in equal standing. We've got the feet close together, the big toes pointed forward. Take a moment to feel the weight in the feet and bring the weight even through the sole of the foot. Bring some energy into the leg muscles, that feeling of taking hold of the leg bones. And then in the hips, allow the tailbone to drop down. Let's come up our back body and just gently lift up along the spine, coming between the shoulder blades, between the shoulders, up to the base of the skull, creating this feeling of length, extension. And then we use the hands on the core and we'll just rub gently and give ourselves time to come onto the upper thighs, come up to the diaphragm, around to the sides. And when we're ready, we're going to go with an inhale. So we'll bring the fingers deep into the hips here, and the inhale's up the center line. Have the elbows lift the shoulders and release the arms, reaching as we're comfortable. And on the exhale, bringing the arms down with our out breath. And with this exhale, we'll just bring the arms to shoulder height, sweep them forward, soften the knees, and push out with the palms. So we'll reach out through the upper back and then melt over, releasing the head and neck. And when it's an inhale, we'll come tall again, running the hands up the legs, onto the belly and up the center line. Looking up as we finish our inhale. And when we're exhaling, soften the knees, sweep the arms forward, pressing outward, melting over. Coming back up as we breathe in. And when we get low this time, let's have an extra breath or two. Let's make sure our neck is relaxed. Lower the hips down a little more. And when you're ready to, try lifting the hips a little higher. And once or twice, we'll go back and forth. And then come to a middle position. And with an inhale, let's bring ourselves up tall again. And now let's stay tall when we come to our out breath. So we'll simply bring the arms down alongside the body. Just pausing for a moment. Once again, feel the balance of weight through the feet. Take the extension up the back body. And then let's work a little bit in the lower legs. We'll float the heels off the mat. Keeping the ankles stable. We'll lower the heels when we're ready to, and we'll lift our toes. We'll go back and forth a handful of times. So you can stay connected to the core body. Keep sinking down in the tailbone. Keep reaching up along the neck, the base of the skull. And next time the heels touch down, let's just leave them there on the mat and lift the toes up. Now we're going to keep the big toes in the air so we can press the little toes down. Still drop our tailbone in this position and then switch and place the big toes and lift the little toes. And we'll go back and forth. Okay, we'll bring all the toes up so we can just spread them apart from each other and feel where the weights ended up across the base of the toes. And let's explore taking the weight outward. So the arch lifts, there's more weight at the outside edge of the foot. And then let's take the weight inward, lifting the outer edge of the foot. And back and forth, 1 or 2 more times. And then bring the weight pretty even here. Release the toes for a moment. Dig the toes in the mat. And then relax the feet. Now, try lifting just the big toes. Sink the tailbone. And then this right leg, take the weight out of the right foot. Let the knee bend and see if you can float that right foot just off the mat, keeping the big toes lifted. And then let's put the right foot down. Let's release the toes for a moment. And then we'll lift the big toes again. And we're going to start to take weight out of the left foot. We'll let the knee bend a little bit, and we'll get the left foot just off the mat. Still working on lifting up in the big toes. And let's return that foot. When the weight's even, we're going to bend the knees. We'll bring the hands down by the knees. We'll get a few circles. You want to do both directions. And be aware of the position of the spine. Let's see if we can gently push the vertebra backward, tuck the hips under a little bit. And we'll come centered when we're ready. Bend the knees just a bit more. Really want to have some of the weight go through the arms, through the hands, onto the legs. Bring the hips under, push vertebra back. We're going to lift up in the neck. So we maybe bring the elbows forward a little bit as well. And let's change our back. When we inhale, lift the chest, move the hips back, lengthen up the back of the neck all the way to the base of the skull, and then tip the tailbone in. And then from here, when you breathe out, move the hips underneath again. And when we need an inhale, we're going to bring the hands up the center line of the body. Making ourselves tall, reaching up, take the gaze up. And under our exhale, simply bring the hands down. Now separate the feet about hips width apart. We'll have the hands on the hips. We're going to start with the right side. So we'll take the right side back, release the right arm pointing behind. On the inhale, turn forward.
I can't hear you, Alan.
And on the exhale, run the hand all the way down the left side. So we'll go side to side. So when we're ready, the left side goes back, reaching behind, inhaling up. Exhale, run that left hand down the right side, releasing over. And comes up on the same side. Travels down the opposite side. And we'll do our last set here. So whenever we get our left side, there's our last one. And once we're back up, just pausing for a moment. Again, feel the weight through the feet. We're going to get the feet a bit closer in towards each other again. We'll do a couple of balance things here. And we'll float our right leg up in the air. I just pause for a moment, keeping the right knee up. Feel the tailbone, lengthen the back body. See if the knee comes up just a little bit higher. And then let's lower the leg. Shift the weight and left leg's up. So slowly returning to the right. This time, once it's up, open it outward. And then taking it down. Same for the left. Up and outward. Bringing it down. When it's the right, up and outward, and touch the standing leg. And just take a moment here so we can create length as we pause. And then returning. Again, working within our core, creating length and returning. Okay, let's pause here and move the feet wider apart. Now take both arms out in front, rotate the arms. Bend the knees, drop the hips, push through the palms and float the arms up by the ears, pressing upward for a moment. And then just soften the arms, let them come down so you can keep the back long. And now rotate the arms again and move both hands back for a moment. So widen the collarbones, drop the hips, just gently back behind the hips a little bit here. And then relax just the right arm and swing it up onto the collarbone, the upper breastbone. So one of the jobs of this hand is to help us be aware of the shoulder going back. And we don't want to send the shoulder back. Right? We want as best we can keep the shoulders squared forward. So tip the head away from this left shoulder, tipping head to the right, and then rotate. So the face now turns a bit to the left. And then use the eyes and look down for those right fingertips without tipping the head forward. Okay, let's bring the head up and soften that arm. Release the arm, shake the arms. We'll do the same thing now on the right side. We'll start with both arms rotated, gently moved back, and then release that left arm. Take it up to the collarbone, upper sternum. Doing our best not to swing the right shoulder back. And then take the head toward the left. And then turn the face toward the right again. Have the eyes looking down. We're going to look for those fingertips. And then release. So releasing the head, releasing the arms, gently shaking the arms. And now with the hands, scoop the hands. So fingertips point in. Fingertips are brought together, right? And they point in. And they reach up. And then release and take the hands out. Float them up. Gently push out through the heels of the palms. And then once again, scoop. Move in. And now take the fingertips in toward you and then downward. Lower the arms, have them go out. So now the palms are up here. And now rotate the arms. So we're going to rotate the fingertips forward and upward, and then fingers outward, and then heels of palms outward. And just keep the arms gently floating up. As you gently, slowly float the arms higher, just let the shoulders reach. And then slowly bring the arms out in front of the shoulders. Now draw the elbows in a little bit. So hands come in a bit closer. And then just bring the palms together. Now tip the fingertips in toward the chest, gently downward, and then fingertips up and forward. So just allow the arms to find their right place. I want to keep dropping the tailbone down, lengthening in the neck. Okay, now when the fingertips point up, let's pause there for a moment. And then explore taking the hands out and up. And the palms go behind the head and then come forward, out and up. And let the shoulders kind of rock a bit side to side. Just kind of naturally extend the motion into the shoulders. And here's our last cycle. We'll come forward. And then we're going to do the other direction. Okay, let's give ourselves one more. And then pausing in front, release the arms. Just give the wrists that gentle kind of shake, flutter. And then just the fingertips. And then let's release the arms. Okay, let's play a bit with the legs again. Now we're going to take our feet wider apart. So starting with the feet wider than the shoulders, a comfortable distance here. Get strong down the legs, engage onto the soles of the feet. As you breathe in, sweep the arms up. Now this left hand, when we breathe out, it's going to drop toward the right foot, ankle. We're going to turn out the right leg, bend the knee, drop the fingertips as low as we're comfortable. And when we inhale, we're going to sweep back up, turn that right leg back inward. And then the right arm drops towards the left foot or ankle. So as we work, we want to allow the feet to find the best distance for today. So they'll naturally, potentially go wider or a bit closer. As we come through center, we do want to have that fun of stretching out long in all directions. Now, after we go to the left, let's pause just for a moment in the center. And then let's make it a little bigger. We'll do a little more with the arms. So turn out the right leg. Now drop the left arm, drop the right arm down. Swing the left arm up and over and windmill the arm. So the Left hand comes down by the right foot, the right arm reaches up and then forward. And when we're ready to leave, unwind the windmilling of the arms and see if you can bring yourself to warrior two. And then straighten the leg, bring both arms up. So same thing going to the left. So we're going to drop the left arm, swing that right arm up and over, bring the right arm down, the left arm goes all the way up and ends up pointing forward. We really want to be careful with our neck here. And when we're ready to leave, we're going to reverse that windmill of the arms, come for a moment into warrior two, and then straighten up. Let's try it back again, going to the right. So we're going to bring the left arm up, over, right arm, windmills in the other direction. And then reversing as we're ready to, pausing for a moment in warrior two, coming tall. And we'll do a couple more here at our own breath timing. We want to move when we're breathing. So when it's time to come up, start with an in-breath. And we get an exhale maybe in the warrior two, and then the inhale brings us into this kind of jumping jack, starfish place. We use an exhale to release down. And when we're ready to come up, time it with an in-breath. So we'll go to the left. Whenever it's appropriate, it'll be our last cycle going left. So once we've had our left, we'll just pause here for a moment. And then let's release our arms down. So from here, we'll bring the legs just a little bit closer. And we're going to play a little bit with where to position the legs. Now, we're going to start by turning out the right leg, have the right knee bend, lean the forearm onto it, and just reach out up and over. Now from here, bring the arms out from the shoulders and bend both knees. And then reach up, bring the hands close. And now the same thing on the left side. Left knee is going to bend. I'm going to put the forearm down and reach out. And then to leave here, bend both knees, bring the arms out from the shoulders, and then straighten up, reach up. And then back to the right. So just traveling slowly through these places. We're going to come all the way up before we change sides. So from going all the way to one side, we come into the center with knees bent. And then from there, we straighten all the way up. And then we just bend the other side. Coming into the center, coming tall as we're ready. Over to the other side as we're ready. Okay, we'll do one more cycle here. So whenever that left leg is bent, from there, we simply bring ourselves back to our kind of modified squat in the center. And we straighten up. And we'll just release the arms down. Now we're going to bring the legs a bit closer. And we're going to bend the knees, hands are on the thighs. And we're looking for a position where we're really leaning weight through the arms into the legs. So we're taking some weight off the low back. And just move the hip underneath a little bit, pressing up along the back body. At the same time, just dropping the hips. Now let's create a twist here. So when you're ready to bend out the left elbow, roll the right shoulder in toward the center line, turn left, looking left. And we're going to use the right hand to keep the right knee rolling inward. And then let's switch sides. Okay, we'll do our last cycle. So we end after we look to the right. And then after we twist here to the right, return center. And then we're going to lower ourselves lower down. So drop the hips a bit, reach the hands out in front. And see if you can get the fingertips to touch the mat. Maybe walk the hands a little further forward. Bring the heels off the mat. And just come to a place where you're able to move the hips around. And the hips can go forward and backward, side to side. Let the legs flex and move freely. And we're just really playing in this place. And then for ourselves, be prepared to adjust where the hands and feet are. But what we're going to do, let's evolve this a little bit and come to a place where you're pressing down one leg and bending the other knee. And the knee that bends moves in toward the center line. On the leg that straightens, the hips kind of turn outward, upward a little bit. And for ourselves, we really do keep adjusting the placement of hands and feet. And also consider freeing up the neck and letting the head and neck move around. Okay, so let's slow down and just come still for a breath or two and just take the opportunity to push the legs back, lift the belly and the hips, press the hips back, and then keep the neck long. Just adjust the neck so it feels relaxed. And then bend the knees. Let's take the knees down onto the mat. And once we get the knees down, let's move them wider apart. And see if the hips can drop back. See if you can have the feet lined up behind the knees and drop the hips back there. And when the hips are dropped back, reach the arms as far forward out in front as you can. And then what we'll do here, when we're ready, we're going to move ourselves forward. So maybe angle the fingers inward a little bit, bend the elbows outward. Keep the knees that distance apart or make the adjustments we need, but use the inner thighs to pull the legs toward each other and just slide the torso forward. And don't overdo this, shoulders out and your wrists are probably as far as we want to go. And then we're going to push back when we're ready. So we're going to keep adjusting our limbs so that we're able to glide low, moving forward, gliding back. Now, when we shift back, let's adjust again. So this time, bring the toes close together, potentially take the knees wider apart, and then take the hips down toward the heels, extend the arms. Now, tuck the chin a little bit, and for a breath or two, rest the forehead onto the mat. So comfortable width between the knees. Okay, now lifting the head, bend the elbows, slide forward, have the chest low, and just come as far forward as comfortable with the shoulders, then push up and straighten the arms. So think about where the arms are. They're long and straight, and the knees wide, feet close together, the hips release down. And for ourselves, inside the hips, we're getting that little tuck to the tailbone. That's actually going to stop the hips from dropping a little further, but that's okay. Keep that little bit of control at the tailbone. And let's release back. So simply moving the hips back, drop the hips downward. Let the forehead touch down. Okay, now let's put the forearms down on the mat here. So gently press on the fingers, lift the head. Looking forward, we're going to slide forward again. And as we start to come forward, see if you can slide the forearms a little further forward. And just carefully moving ourselves forward, the tailbone's a little tucked. And just inching the forearms forward, not forcing ourselves to get anywhere. The feet will start to move apart as the hips go further forward. Simply being aware of that. We've got the weight through the forearms. We're going to lift the ribs. We're going to tuck the chin and energize the inner thighs so the knees would like to pull together. They're not going to be able to. That's okay. And now see if you can adjust the feet so they feel like they're straight back from the knees. Keep lifting the chest. Okay, let's release back. So move the hips back. We get far enough back, we're going to have to walk the arms back. And then once we've shifted the weight, let's bring the knees in closer. Bring the big toes together and drop the hips down. Okay, when we're ready to, let's lift up onto hands and knees. Now, tuck the toes under. Move the hips back and see if you can take the knees just off of the ground and shift the weight here onto the base of the toes. So for sure, you don't want to have that feeling of the toes jamming into the mat. We've moved the weight back off of the toes onto the base, the ball of the foot. And we're just bending the knees as much as we can without straining at the ankle. And then stretch the legs up. As we stretch the legs up, we sink the heels down. And then once again, bend the knees and drop the knees down toward the mat, really being careful with the toes and ankles here. And then stretch the legs up again. Okay, now bend the knees, look toward the hands, and take that left foot up by the left hand, take it to the outside of the hand. And just be here long enough to feel the feet, let that left knee go forward a little bit. And then when you exhale, step back. So we'll step back into straight legs. We're going to sink both knees, almost touching, but look after the toes, the ankles. Lift the hips again. And then bring that right foot to the outside of the right hand. So press down that straight leg, press on that front foot. When we exhale, let's step back and bend both knees. Lift the hips again, bring that left foot forward. And now let's bring the left foot in a little bit. So we'll lift the left hand off the mat. We'll walk the left foot inward toward the center line. And now the left hand can be on the outside. And once we've done that, put the right knee down. That's the back knee. And once we've done that, move the hips back. And as the hips walk back, the hands walk back. And as we go further back, this front foot, just the heel touches the ground, the front foot lifts. And as we go further back and drop down, just allow that front heel to drag where it needs to go. We're going to drop the hips as low as we can. We've got some weight through the hands. We want to find a place we can pause here. And we're simply going to look at that front leg, look down at the knee. And then lift the head, look at the front foot, and see if you can point the toes forward. And then flex the ankle, point the toes at the ceiling, point the toes to the face, and look down at the knee. And then when you're ready, lift the head again, look at the foot, push the toes forward. And now walk the hands forward and let that front foot come flat. We're going to walk the hands forward, move the hips forward, and get far enough forward that we can now take this front foot and walk it outward. So it's gone outward from the hand, and then lift the back knee. Just give yourself a moment here in the lunge. And then when you're ready to, take that front leg back, lift the hips and release the leg back. And we get a moment here with both legs straight, and then bend the knees down. Again, being really respectful with the toes here. We want the weight to travel into the ball of the foot. And then lift the hips up again, and then swing that other leg up front. And once we're up front, we're going to walk that foot inward so it's in between the hands. And then we're going to lower the back knee. And we're going to use the hands to walk our way back, move the hips back. As we come further back, we'll get a place where we can lift the front foot, just the heel touching the mat. On this, on this long front leg, let the heel drag in or out. Just play a little bit with that. And we're just looking at this front knee sinking lower with the toes pointed up toward the ceiling. And then lift the gaze, and we're going to look at those front toes, and we're going to point them forward and gently point the toes, extend the leg. And when you're ready to, reversing, toes up toward the ceiling and our gaze down at the knee. And reversing again, pointing out the toes, looking at them. And from here, we're going to start to walk our hands forward. That front foot goes flat. We keep coming forward. And then we lift the back knee. We're back in our lunge. And we're going to walk that front foot to the outside of the hand. Now to go back, lift the hips and release the leg back. So just enjoy downward dog for a moment here. And then take both knees onto the mat. And then move the knees apart. And let's go into child's pose. Knees wide, big toes close, melting down. Okay, and then from here, we're going to bring our knees back up again. Knees are close. So take the hands a little wider than the shoulders and the knees a small distance between them. And we want to let the hips just sink over to one side. Be careful with the weight through the arms and shoulders, and then travel the hips to the other side. And let's do this once more for each side. And then when we're ready, we're back in neutral here. And let's do the right leg first. Take the right knee over to the right hand. So the knee comes up by the hand. And then see if that right foot can be brought a little more to the left, but definitely look after the right knee. And then the left leg, the back leg, tuck the toes under. Walk the leg back a bit further. Make sure the knee's comfortable so you can get a feeling of the hips squared forward, releasing down. And then come onto the forearms. So we'll come lower down. We may need to adjust that front leg so the knee stays comfortable. That's most important. We won't be able to release into the hip if the knee feels painful. Simply allowing ourselves to come lower. Now that back leg, tuck the toes under, lift the knee and press back into the heel. And let's put that back knee down. And we're going to lift the head. We'll come onto the hands. And we're going to start walking the hands back in. We'll take a breath or two here. So the back knee is on the mat. See if you can work in the hips where you can create a little tuck to the tailbone. And then lift higher through the core body, up through the ribs, up along the neck. So the chin's a little tucked, the face is forward, let the eyes rest downward. Okay, and just soften, we'll lean forward a little bit, and we're gonna start to bring that back leg up. So use the foot to walk the back leg up, and we come to the point where we kind of release the load on the front leg, the right leg, and we can undo it and bring the knees side by side. We're back in tabletop. And then toes tucked under, just push the hips back. So we'll stretch out along the back. And when you're ready with an inhale, bring the hips up and forward, and then send that left knee up by the left hand. And see if you can work that left foot over to the right side a bit. And then start to walk the right leg back. So always adjusting the position for this front knee so it's comfortable. And then when you're set, we'll come lower, forearms on the mat. And we're just going to ease ourselves as low as we're comfortable going. Always making sure the front knee's okay. And then the back leg, toes tucked under, lift the knee, push down into that back heel. And then release that back knee down. And then we'll lift up, we'll come onto the hands and walk the hands in a little bit. As we lift ourselves up, we want to give attention to the placement of the hips. So that little feeling of sinking in the tailbone, creating length up the back body. We'll just have the face going forward so we can reach along the neck, and then let the eyes rest downward. Okay, we're going to release from here. So walk the hands forward a bit. We'll lean forward a little bit, and we're going to walk the back leg up. So we keep walking up until we take the load off the front leg, and we can return, come back into tabletop. And let's give the ankles a break. We'll flatten the feet. We'll drop the hips down toward the heels, tuck the tailbone, and just create length along the back here. Okay, lift the hips again. The hips are up. Bring the knees a bit closer in than hips width. Now the right knee, we'll take it forward again, but now take the right knee over to the left wrist. And then bring that right foot a little more to the left side, and then sit down on the right hip and turn to the side. So look after this back leg, the left leg, bend the foot a bit. We'll come on fingertips. Just want to take a moment to sink the tailbone. Really consider the placement here on this back leg. The knees not tightly closed, so the foot is out of way a bit, but always adjusting so our joints are comfortable. And then what we'll do with this back knee is lift it off the mat. So we'll do about 10. And when that feels like enough, we'll pause there. Now we're going to work with the back foot, but to do that, we're going to create a twist. So take both hands over to the outside of this front leg, and then turn a bit, bend the elbows and look down under the shoulder. So elbows bent, looking down the back body, we can see that back foot, and just the foot lifts up and down off the mat. And then we'll just let the foot rest down. We'll press up again. Now we're going to come lower down. So it depends where you are on the mat in your room, just adjusting if you need to. When you're ready, we're going to come down onto this front forearm. So we're going to bring ourselves lower down. So what's now our top arm, just rest it on this lower thigh. And see if you can get this front foot here to lift. So in this position, it's just going to come a little bit off the ground, but get those little muscles in the hip to make an effort. And then pause there, and let's go lower down. We'll come all the way down and just bend the elbow, support the head, just adjust this place so it's comfortable for you. And now this, what I'll call the top leg now, this back leg, lift the knee, put the foot flat. Take a moment to adjust in the hips. We want a place where we can press gently on the foot. We've got the knee above the ankle. And now have another go at lifting this foot. We've got Usually we've got way more movement here from the core. Want to keep gently pressing on this upper leg into the foot to stabilize the hip. Okay, let's rest that leg. Now, we're going to switch the hand that supports the head. So that lower arm, take it away. The upper arm, take it up and over the head. Wrap the fingers around the ear. Now, we'll call this the lower leg. Bring the foot in a little closer to the center line. And then when you're exhaling, bring this top knee and top elbow in toward each other. And on the inhale, let them both come back. Okay, our last time. Now, once we're done our set, we'll just put both hands back on the mat. So let this top leg drop down, put both hands on the mat. We'll press ourselves up and we kind of walk our hands up. So we're more or less where we began. Now, both hands land on the mat. So we're going to turn now back toward the mat. And then lift the hips up and swing that right knee over to the right side and come back up on hands and knees. Maybe a cat and dog stretch or two, just to get the back mobile here. And then we're going to do the other side. So we're going to take this left knee over to the right wrist and swing that left foot a bit more to the right side so we can put the hip down, and we'll come all the way down on the hip. And then once again, this back leg needs a little bit of adjusting. And drop our tailbone here. And then let's explore into this back knee here. So this can feel very different side to side. And we do want to find the angle where we can work. It can be different angles on each side. We don't want to find ourselves stressing in the joint. Okay, so last time, when the knee comes down, we're going to now make this rotation. So both hands go up past this front leg, hands walk to the outside, the elbows bend, and we lower down and look under the shoulder, down the back body. We're going to look for the back foot, and then lift that back foot up and down a handful of times. And now let's let that leg relax down, press up. We'll walk forward again. So now we're more to the side. And now we're going to come lower down so we can work with the front leg. So come down onto the forearm. So the knee's open here, right? And we're playing to see if we can lift the foot here. And one side might be easier than the other. Just some gentle exploration. And now we're going to go lower so it's more easy to work in the hip on this side. So coming down onto the side, we'll bend the elbow, we'll support the head, and then we'll adjust the top leg. So the knee's up, the foot is flat, knees above the foot. Want to press lightly onto the foot to stabilize the hip, and then explore again, lifting just the foot on this front leg. Okay, let's rest that leg down. And now bring the foot a bit more toward the spine. Let's change the hand supporting the head. So top arm, take it up and over. We'll take the fingers around the ear. And when we're making an exhale, bring the top elbow, top knee close, and back down for the in-breath. So last time. And then once we're done, we'll stay low, just drop the knees down. We'll bring ourselves up high enough, just high enough that we can switch onto the back body. So just turning over onto the back and then come all the way down again, rest the back on the mat. Get the feet flat. Rest the arms away from the sides. And experience where the weight is through the back body. Now we'll do a little work in the hips here. We're going to gently flatten the sacrum. Now, see if you can hold the sacrum flat and have the breathing in the belly so the belly rises and falls. And we get an exhale. Let's bring both knees in toward the ribs and just for a moment, hug the knees, hug them in toward the chest. Now, as you hold the knees, experience where the weight is again through the back and keep the top of the hips in contact with the mat. Now from here, let's roll to the side. So coming onto the side body. Once we get on the side, the lower knee, slide it lower, the top knee, bring it a bit higher so it touches the mat, and hook this top foot behind that lower leg. Now the lower arm, we'll start with it straight out from the shoulder, and then drop the head back. The upper arm, simply reach straight up for the ceiling. Rotate the arm and push up in the palm. And then bring that upper arm down alongside the ear, pressing out for the wall behind you. On the lower arm, bend the elbow. Take the elbow to 90 degrees, have the palm toward the ceiling, and relax all the way up into the shoulder blade with that lower arm. And then going inside the core body, let's tuck our tailbone. Move the top hip just a little bit here away from the top shoulder. And then using the eyes, looking downward. Now the upper arm, move it outward from the ear. As we go out wider, see if we can get the shoulder to rotate, release. And we're going to look for the place where the shoulder has a feeling of letting go. And we can still gently press into the palm. Now let's soften the upper arm, bend the elbow, bring the arm back to the torso, and then roll onto the back. So just balance the back on the ground. Relax the weight. And then gently bring the sacrum flat. On the exhale, let's bring our knees in, hug the knees toward the ribs, and then the back body, just press at the top of the hips and keep them on the mat, lightly pressed down. And then tip the knees over to the other side. Now, once we're at the side, the bottom knee goes down, top knee moves up so it touches the mat. And the top foot is going to hook behind that lower leg. Lower arm is straight out from the shoulder. Upper arm is going to reach for the ceiling. We're going to rest the head down. And on the lower arm, bend the elbow. Keep the palm toward the ceiling and relax that lower arm all the way into the shoulder blade. Pressing up with the upper arm, bring it by the ear, press out. Tucking the tailbone. And then let's move the upper arm away from the ear. Looking for the place where the shoulder releases, something like 45 degrees. Gently pressing out in the palm. And then relaxing the upper arm, bending the elbow, bring the arm to the torso. We'll roll onto our back body. Now, place the sacrum flat on the mat and then bring the knees up. So hands are on the knees. Relaxing the legs, have a comfortable distance apart for the knees. Letting the hips, sacrum, low back, allow them all to soften down. Now bring the knees closer together, about hips width apart, and then let the knees slide out from the hands and let the feet just land on the ground. And then drop the arms out to the sides. Let the knees fall open. Experience the outside edges of the feet. Lightly press on the outside edges of the feet and press the sacrum flat. And then either foot, scrape down that outside edge of the foot to extend the leg. And then the second, and release the legs. Release the weight of the body on the mat. Bring the attention onto the body breathing. And let's begin to move again, moving fingers and toes, moving ankles and wrists. Then we're going to stretch out in the arms, stretch down the legs, lengthening the back body. And when we're ready with an exhale, let's pull the knees up. Holding on, we'll rock gently. And we're going to release ourselves all the way over, travel to either side. Come up to sitting. Namaste.
Thank you so much.